Heart disease remains the leading threat to human longevity. If you try to find out how to prevent plaque from building up in your arteries, you immediately encounter a wall of contradictory advice. We are caught in a nutritional conflict. On one side, the Paleo camp promotes a high-meat, high-fat diet. On the other, the plant-based camp demands the removal of all animal proteins. For patients trying to manage real cardiovascular risk, these opposing extremes create absolute paralysis. The high-meat argument is championed by Dr. Loren Cordain. He relies on evolutionary history, suggesting that humans are biologically adapted to consume large amounts of animal protein for optimal health. The opposition is led by Dr. T. Colin Campbell. He argues that animal proteins promote disease, and that a diet of roughly 10% plant-sourced protein is optimal for vascular health. Moving past these dietary slogans requires an objective evaluation of the hard biological mechanisms that dictate how fast our arteries age. Evaluating these diets requires stripping away internet tribalism and looking at the clinical evidence. We need to measure what actually damages or protects the cardiovascular system over decades of life. This matrix measures protein percentage, primary source, and cardiovascular impact to test if meat is an evolutionary necessity or detrimental. Using 2024 and 2025 research, we will identify the specific cardiovascular return on investment for both nutritional frameworks. The goal is to extract the scientifically proven components from both camps to maximize your health span. The paleo argument relies on the fossil record. Stone tools dating back 2.6 million years and isotopic analysis suggest our early ancestors functioned as top-level carnivores, deriving 50 to 65% of their calories from animal foods.
However, high animal protein comes with biological trade-offs. While lean meats improve short-term weight regulation, chronic intake increases growth hormones like IGF-1. Elevated levels of these hormones are linked to arterial damage and the promotion of disease over a lifetime. Campbell's clinical data directly challenges the high-meat approach. His research indicates that restricting protein to roughly 10% of daily calories reduces metabolic acid load and improves vascular health. This chart shows data from the 2024 Nurses' Health Study. It proved that swapping even small amounts of animal protein for plant sources like legumes or nuts strongly predicts healthy aging, reaching old age without major chronic disease. The plant-based camp often points to the blue zones, like Okinawa, to prove the longevity benefits of their diet. However, those claims are often heavily mythologized. Demographic research that won a 2024 Ig Nobel Prize revealed that many claims of extreme age in these regions are actually linked to pension fraud or poor record-keeping. These longevity narratives require skepticism. Even without the blue zone myths, the clinical data strongly favors plant-dominant proteins for long-term arterial preservation. On the metric of heart health, Campbell's model is supported by more consistent long-term data. To understand plant-dominant success, we must ask if humans were truly meat-only hunters before agriculture. A 2024 genomic study shifted our understanding of the ancestral timeline by analyzing the AMY1 gene. AMY1 is the specific sequence of DNA that produces amylase, an enzyme in our saliva that allows us to digest complex starches efficiently. The research confirmed that the duplication of this gene occurred nearly 800,000 years ago, hundreds of thousands of years before Homo sapiens fully emerged. This genetic evidence suggests that starch-rich plants provided a significant strategy supporting the expansion of the human brain. These foods were a part of our ancestral toolkit long before we ever planted a crop. Avoiding all carbohydrates in the name of evolutionary history contradicts our own genetic coding. But the plant-based camp has a significant blind spot. A common assumption is that putting the vegan label on a package automatically makes the food heart-healthy. This quadrant chart maps the food matrix concept, the understanding that a nutrient's effect on your heart depends on the physical structure of the food it's housed in. When we plot ultra-processed vegan foods, like industrial meat substitutes, they land securely in the high-risk quadrant. They carry cardiovascular risks similar to those of processed animal meats. Contrast that with saturated fats derived from minimally processed or fermented sources, like yogurt. Their physical structure results in a neutral or benign impact on heart risk compared to industrial fats. This validates Dr. Cordain's original warning. Industrial processing is a primary driver of modern metabolic disease, regardless of the food source.
Eliminating animal products is one factor, but the data suggests that removing ultra-processed structures is the more significant requirement for metabolic health. The final verdict is a synthesis of both frameworks. Dr. Campbell wins the macro strategy, as plant-dominant protein definitively protects arteries and promotes longevity. Dr. Cordain wins on dietary quality. The strict avoidance of industrial food processing is necessary for metabolic health. These combined findings point to a 2025 synthesis, the whole food plant-dominant diet. This framework respects our genetic ability to digest starches while protecting the vascular system from the excessive growth hormones found in high-meat diets. Achieving superior arterial health requires moving past the convenience of modern processed foods. This decision tree breaks down protocols based on specific health goals. For a cardiovascular risk patient needing to reverse plaque, adopt Campbell's framework. Replace animal proteins with legumes and nuts, maintaining zero tolerance for processed vegan junk food. For a longevity optimizer seeking to maximize health span while maintaining muscle performance, the approach changes slightly. Follow Cordain's standard for zero ultra-processed foods, but intentionally swap at least 50% of your animal protein for whole plant sources. Effective nutrition requires moving past dogma to focus on food source and the degree of industrial alteration.